on Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT and on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT. I hope you're all having yourselves a fantastic morning. This morning, Mr. Sofka and I are inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, and being inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, we are here with you for the Fantasy Football Power Hour every single Wednesday between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So thank you so much for joining us. Let's bring in the man of the hour, Mr. Sofka. How are we doing?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
Doing very well. And Mike, I mean, I want to start things off kind of how we got here. This was the first time we've ever seen a Week 18 in the NFL. There's never been 18 weeks. There's never been 17 regular season games with one bye week. So to see where we are currently at this moment in the evolution of the NFL, let's start there. What are your thoughts on the fact that we have 17 instead of 16 games and that we have 18 weeks now instead of 17?
I was worried coming into the season that injuries or teams would have their playoff situation locked up early enough where we'd be seeing a lot of fantasy stars locked down till the playoffs. You wouldn't see them on the field. You'd have drafted first and second round talent in your fantasy draft, and these guys would be sitting on the bench because they wouldn't be playing in your championship weeks. I was pleasantly surprised with the competition in Week 18. There was 135 playoff scenarios still to be played out in the last week of the season for the AFC. And there were some surprising games, too. Like, I thought the Lions beating the Packers, who were the number one seed in the NFC, and who went ahead and started Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones and all these people, and they still lost the game. I look at the Jaguars won. Who saw that coming? Steelers beat the Ravens. Steelers snuck in. And speaking of the Steelers, it was something else because the Chargers and the Raiders on Monday night came down to overtime. Had the Chargers and the Raiders tied, they both would have made it in, and Pittsburgh would have got kicked out. The Raiders, instead of kneeling on the ball, kicked the field goal, knocked the Chargers out of the playoffs. And then I had the game of the week I thought was San Fran and the LA Rams. I really thought that was a great game to watch. So overall, I thought the whole, end result of Week 18, I thought it was a success for the NFL.
Yeah, I thought it was great, and I had those scenarios. There was a world where the Tennessee Titans, the New England Patriots, or the Cincinnati Bengals would have the number one seed in the AFC. There was a world where the Chargers, the Steelers, the Ravens, or the Raiders could make the playoffs, looking for those last two spots with four teams trying to vie for them, and the Colts, actually five teams trying to vie for two spots. And then in the world of the NFC, Green Bay had number one locked up, but where the Bucs were going to be, where the Cowboys were going to be, and what the Rams and the Cardinals were going to do, the Rams needed to win, and they had the division of the NFC West. Arizona needed to win and have the Rams lose. Arizona lost. The Rams lost. So the Rams, even in losing, got to keep the division there, but they let the Niners in. Three teams coming in from the NFC West. None of them named the Seahawks. That's a shock to most people looking at Russell Wilson and, what that team has done up to this point. I mean, we see Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, and you expect if anybody's going to make the playoffs, it'd be Seattle. And now everybody made it but them out of the NFC West. The Jaguars got to keep their number one pick despite winning. So they win, Detroit wins, Jaguars get to leave on momentum, plus they get the number one pick. So, Mike, what are your thoughts on some of those things? That the Rams lost, still got the division. We look at the Seahawks, the only team not getting in from the NFC West, and we look at the Jaguars winning but still getting the number one pick. There were some interesting scenarios going on in the background as well.
Yeah, I think the Rams thing was something else. I think the Rams put all their chips in the table. They've given away all their draft stock just about. They brought guys in. They've done what they had to do to build this team up. I think they're a playoff team. I think this team was built for the playoffs. It appears that most everybody's healthy, that can be, and it appears that they're ready for a run. Yeah, they got, knocked out by the 49ers at the end there. And then the Jaguars, I think they played that game for each other. There's nothing that says power and strength and domination in a game like playing for each other. These guys don't know what their coaching situation is in the future. They don't even know if they're going to be on a team next year. They're playing for themselves. They're playing to make sure they put something good on tape so that heaven forbid the worst thing happened, they played hard till the end. And, that was at a game where I guess a lot of fans were dressing up like clowns because of the information, the direction that Shad Khan has taken with this team, with the GM and the coach. And then, you look at the other games too. It was an exciting week. The Seahawks, like you said, get the only team not to make it from the West. The Seahawks end up winning and still don't make it. They beat the Cardinals, who were in. So, topsy-turvy weekend. It was exciting to watch, and I'm excited for Week 18 football from here out.
Yeah, it really was just to see that Week 18 had so much value to it. I think that's what really did it for me was seeing that it was actually a meaningful week, like you said, that people weren't just sitting and we're not just sitting there watching and saying, okay, well, this guy isn't playing and this guy isn't playing and this guy isn't playing, so does this matter? I mean, these games had huge implications all the way to the last second of Week 18, which actually didn't happen on Sunday. It happened Monday morning as the game was played past midnight, and I stayed up and watched that game. Mike, what do you think about that? The fact that, here are the Jaguars, and everybody thinks, okay, and I, too, I was like, there's no way the Colts lose this game. The Colts lose, the Jaguars command. I love that they made me wrong in that prediction, and it was great to be on site on location. By the way, not many people dressed up as clowns. There was the thought that they were gonna. I saw 3 on the way in and some here and there. I think Marvin Jones said that he thought he saw somebody take the clown wig off, almost like he wanted to pretend like, oh no, I didn't come here like that, when the team started playing better. But, seeing this game, being on site in Jacksonville for this moment, when they won, Pittsburgh had to win, which they did, and they needed Indy to lose, and then they needed the Vegas Raiders and the Los Angeles Chargers not to tie. So everybody thought at 4 o'clock when that game ended in Jacksonville, we all thought, okay, Pittsburgh's going to the playoffs. And little did Pittsburgh know that they had to stay up until the wee hours of the night into Monday morning with 2 seconds left because Justin Herbert's insane. What are your thoughts on Justin Herbert's fantasy value being a quarterback that completed a touchdown dart on 4th and 23, then on another drive after that completed 3 4th and 10s on the same drive, then scored to force overtime on 4th and 9, got a 2-point conversion, did everything they needed to do, 6 for 6 on 4th down. What does Justin Herbert look like in the future?
Yeah, well, Justin Herbert has proved himself yet again. I mean, he did everything he could to bring his team to a victory in that game, I thought. I thought he's had an outstanding year. I think he's had an outstanding career so far. He's exceeded expectations. But now I think he's going to be entering dangerous territory because now he's in his 3rd year. Now, I know his team didn't make the playoffs, unfortunately, but now going into his 3rd year, there's even more pressure on him to keep growing. And I think he's capable of doing that. I think that, you look at the Miami Dolphins. They had a chance to draft Justin Herbert. May have cost Brian Flores his job. Brian Flores is an excellent coach. We'll get into that later, even though he was let go by Miami. I think the Chargers are looking good. Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, now Justin Herbert to get them the ball. If they can get a tight end to develop here, they're going to be, even that much more dangerous. Their defense is playing pretty well overall, speaking. So I just think the future looks bright for Justin Herbert and Chargers, and it looks bright for anybody that drafts him on their fantasy team.
Yeah, he throws a great ball, and it was truly incredible to watch what happened here and all of the interesting playoff scenarios. So, as we look at it, we have our playoffs set. There's 7 teams instead of 6 on each side now. So we now know that you can't end 500 in a regular season because there's an odd number of games, 17 games. We also know there's an odd number of teams now, which means that the top 2 teams do not get a bye. Only the number 1 team does. So Tennessee and Green Bay will advance. Nobody else has an automatic advance. Mike, what are your thoughts on the 7-team playoff on each side and that only the number 1 seed gets a break now?
I thought that's what helped keep things competitive toward the end, there's, I can think of so many years past where, I was dismayed because, my first 4 or 5 rounds from the draft, these guys are all sitting, and you're like, all right, time to go to the wire, see what's left here, and you'd end up with guys that were essentially scrubs most of the year, either winning or losing your championship after everybody else was on your bench. So I think it helped keep things competitive till the end. I think it was more incentive that only one team get that playoff bye, especially with a team like Green Bay, who, that is such an advantage. It's going to be icy cold there, especially, when you consider the weather, and there's a lot of warm weather teams that are in this, that could be trouble for somebody down the road. So that one home field advantage instead of 2 is huge.
Yeah, so it's going to be great to see it as we step forward here and to see what things are going to look like. But obviously, Week 18 did not disappoint. It wasn't one of those mail-it-in weeks, and I think that's the best thing about it, is that we actually got to see teams have to play their starters because they're trying to make the playoffs and they're trying to advance forward. So it was a great opportunity. Mike, you brought up Black Monday. We know that Urban Meyer was let go by the Jaguars. We know that John Gruden resigned by the Raiders during the season, from the Raiders during the season. So as we look at what's on the side of the NFL now and where things are now at this point, we're now seeing the fact that a bunch of coaches after that have been let go. Joe Judge, who I predicted would probably, if I had to put of any of the teams remaining that hadn't fired their coach, I had Joe Judge on that list for the Giants, that would happen. Never wishing anybody to get fired, never wishing anybody to lose their job, never wanting anything bad to happen. Just looking at the situation and thinking to myself, is any coach on the hot seat? Yeah. Of the list that I have, of the 2 or 3 that I think are on there, who's on there? And it was Joe Judge. So he's been let go from the Giants. And then we also saw the fact that there's been other coaches let go here. Vic Fangio of the Broncos was let go as well, as Brian Flores of the Miami Dolphins, Matt Nagy of the Chicago Bears, Mike Zimmer of the Minnesota Vikings let go. So what are your thoughts on, Black Monday, which obviously extended out farther than that? The Jaguars, the Raiders, the Vikings, the Bears, the Dolphins, the Broncos, as well as the Giants looking for a new head coach. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought the Joe Judge one was going to happen anyway because they're going to bring in a new GM, and a new GM's going to bring in his guy. So they must have somebody ready to go in the GM hole, ready to go in New York. Brian Flores, I thought that was unjust almost. I know they haven't, exploded on the scene here with his record, but I think that team was building. I think it was building from the inside out. I saw players playing for each other and playing for their coach there, and that's hard to find. If I'm Jacksonville or somebody else, I'm snatching this guy up. This is a guy I want to build a program. Unfortunately, in the NFL, just like everywhere else in life, we've become very impatient. We want things now. We should be able to have everything now. That's the way it is. And sometimes things take time to develop. Sometimes you got to plant the seed, cultivate, and then you can reap what you've sown. It doesn't go you plant the seed, then go reap what you've sown. It takes time. It takes effort. You got to put a lot of things into it. I thought Matt Nagy was destined to be fired, and failure to develop a quarterback there. Now you got Justin Fields, who's a talent, who's hanging in limbo. You don't know if the coach they're going to hire is going to accent the run pass option that he can bring you. This guy does as much with his legs as most guys do with their arm and their legs. This Mike Zimmer, it was a matter of time. It was 8 years. What are you going to do? Vic Fangio, I wasn't really high on that from the start, so it is what it is. Jacksonville and the Raiders are going to be in the mix. Heck, I thought the Raiders put up a heck of a fight in Week 18. Maybe they should hire the interim coach. So, there's a lot to look at. I was surprised that Pete Carroll still has a job, quite frankly.
Yeah, me too.
You've heard some things about Russell Wilson, maybe dismayed with the direction that the team was taking, the management, the play calling and such. And then you got to wonder, well, Russell Wilson really didn't play well this year. Is that his excuse? Is he blaming it on management? Does Russell Wilson still have it? So there's a lot of unanswered questions still. You know, I'm excited. I want to see Eric Bieniemy become a head coach. I think he's past due. You know, I wouldn't be sad if Eric Bieniemy was the coach of the Jaguars. I was a Jaguar fan. I wouldn't be surprised if I was a Jaguar fan if Brian Flores was the coach. I think there's a couple of good candidates out there, and then there's some guys who may look to make the jump back to the NFL, like Harbaugh from Michigan. So I think it's going to be an exciting off season leading up to and past the combine here right after the Super Bowl. So again, year-round NFL, stick with us all year. We do this every week. We do this all year. This fantasy football never sleeps.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of what we do. Black Monday, talking about coaches being fired, the coaches, the job vacancies, from topics like Black Monday to what are they going to do from here, to who are they interviewing, to what do we think about that, to who do we think they should interview, or who are we surprised that they interview, through the whole process of each of these teams hiring a new head coach, including the Jaguars that I cover very closely, to getting ready for the draft and the off season, as well as going through the playoffs here and predicting the playoffs and giving our thoughts on it and what we see happening in daily fantasy and whatnot. So, fantasy truly never sleeps for us, because it's playoffs now, it's daily fantasy, it's going all the way through this, it's coaching searches, it's the Super Bowl, happening, the championship game happening in early February. Then we continue to go through there. Does everybody have a coach by that point? Then we're looking at the draft. We're breaking down the draft. We're also breaking down who we think are the best fantasy performers of the season, who are the guys we thought, who are some of the ones we didn't know or didn't think or didn't expect, those sleepers. Then we're getting ready to get into, like I said, the draft. We do the draft. We have the sleepers. We have the top guys. Now we're in the off season for the NFL. They're getting ready. We're getting set for the next season. We're back at it again. And obviously, as things happen throughout, there's going to be more topics that come up throughout the year as it goes. Hopefully positive topics as we get to do that. The Deshaun Watson saga, what do we do there? There's so many things for us to talk about. That's why Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora doesn't sleep on fantasy. We give it to you every single week, every Wednesday, and we thank you so much for being a part of where sports meets life. So, Mike, thank you for that, and thank you for bringing that to the fray here every single week and joining me on this, because, in this new year and in general, I want to say thank you, because I love talking fantasy football, and I asked you to be a part of this years ago, and then we chose Wednesday as where we were going to really lock in here, and we've been consistently here on Wednesday for, I think, like past 3 years now. So, for us to do this, I'm only half of that, so I want to say thank you for being a part of it, and thank you for rolling with me on fantasy football.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity. It's fun. I'm ready. I'm ready for this weekend. I wish they would play a game 7 days a week. I mean, come on, let's go. I'm excited.
So to get into that, I agree. I'm not against that at all. We'll see Super Wildcard weekend start Saturday, January 15th at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time as the Las Vegas Raiders take on the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. Mike, we saw the Raiders fight all the way to the last 2 seconds, and a 40-plus yard field goal by Daniel Carlson has got to have Ben Roethlisberger sending a check over to Mr. Carlson there for the Raiders, sending them into the playoffs. In that division of the Steelers, the Cincinnati Bengals won the division. Who would have thunk it? They end up winning that division, commanding, and Joe Burrow looking very good in his young career inside of the NFL as the number one pick a couple seasons ago out of LSU after winning a national championship in the college football playoff. Your thoughts on the Raiders, who just wouldn't say die, and the Bengals, who are coming into this thing and were very close to being the number one seed in the AFC?
Well, I was really impressed with LA and with the way they fought in that game against the Chargers. And then the Bengals, I think they're primed and ready to attack. Joe Mixon is back. There's still fantasy football to be played. You could play in contests that will encompass all the games all the way up through the Super Bowl. And then, of course, there's daily, which you can play, any combination of games just about. Or, there's fantasy leagues that start up where you can draft players through DraftKings just for this weekend. Then you can redraft again the following weekend. So, there's a variety of ways. I still rank players every week. So this week, for instance, I got Derek Carr at 9 and Marcus Mariota at 13 at the bottom. for Las Vegas. The reason why Marcus Mariota is even ranked is because he does come in and he does run the ball. And they've done that effectively, I thought. And I think Marcus Mariota takes great pride in that. And what better situation to put yourself in, heaven forbid something happen to your starter. You have a guy who's been plugged in, not just prepared to play, but he's plugged in. He's actively involved in the game. But, you know, if I had my Joe Burrow, I got him ranked number 8 on the ranking this week. Not going to be the... And even though he's capable of throwing for 500 yards to Jamar Chase, I think it's going to be more about Joe Mixon, who's ranked number 3 on my rankings here. And Josh Jacobs right behind him at number 4. So this is going to be a ground and pound game, I feel. Might be a short game because of that. Might be a lower score because of that. Hunter Renfrow is the guy you're going to want for Vegas on the receiving end. Number 10 on the rankings. Zay Jones, number 20. But, of course, Jamar Chase. This rookie has just come in and he's proven himself to be the guy everybody thought he could be, and he is. He's number 5 on the ranking this week. T. Higgins at number 9, and Tyler Boyd number 17. So these guys are going to catch their fair share of balls. I just don't think that this is going to be an air attack all game. It could be an air attack for Vegas, though, with Darren Waller being back. Darren Waller is an integral part of what they try to do. And then Cincinnati's going to try it out. C.J. Uzomah, of course, is the guy you're going to want there above Drew Sample. C.J. at number 12. Looking at this game, the Vegas has the Bengals at 5.5 favorites right now. I think it could be closer than that, but I'm going to take the Bengals at home.
Yeah, you know, this game, the Raiders could have just taken a knee, and they could have sent the Chargers in their division to the playoffs with them. The Raiders didn't need it. The Raiders were going in. So, you know, they were in a good place going into this game because of everything else that had happened, and it was just them and the Chargers. And they wanted to win. They played to win the game, which I love. I know that's a quote, but it's true. They played to win the game. That's what Herm Edwards says, and that's how you should play the game. So I appreciate what the Raiders did, and I appreciate their fight toward the bitter end. And I feel terrible for Justin Herbert because none of that I put on him. The way that he played at the end of that game, that man struck gold over and over and over and over again. Some teams don't complete 6 fourth downs in an entire season. He did 6 for 6 in a game, 3 on the same drive. Absolutely insane. 4th and 23 touchdown. Got you thinking about Donovan McNabb and what could have been when he was in the Super Bowl on 4th and long. So a lot of awesome stuff from Justin Herbert. Going into this game with the Raiders, who did get into the playoffs, like Mike said, Mariota is utilized in this. They bring him in for special sets and whatnot. I like that the former number 2 pick has a place in this. So, you know, for me, team quarterback is important. And in our fantasy leagues and wake-up call, you have that. So that's something to look at for the future. But Mariota does bring you some value. Probably get him relatively cheap, potentially out there and put him out for you. Derek Carr has value too, but not like Joe Burrow. Josh Jacobs, if he's able to go in this game, he was a limited participant with a rib injury. But if he's able to go, you put him out there. Hunter Renfrow, Hans McGee, you definitely got to put him out there. Darren Waller, we saw him come back, and obviously they keep throwing out to him. Derek Carr loves him, so from what we can see, Darren Waller, definitely with a knee injury, if he can go, you play him too. So Jacobs, Renfrow, and Waller, really the awesome pieces here, and cheap to get, probably Marcus Mariota if you need some help there. On the other side, Joe Burrow is absolutely worth the play, and Jamar Chase. Those are 2 guys that are staples of this team. And then some value, obviously, to Joe Mixon, C.J. Uzomah, and T. Higgins. Higgins is good. Higgins comes from Clemson. He does some good things. Him and Joe Burrow were on opposite sides in the national championship a couple seasons ago. But Jamar Chase, being from LSU and knowing Joe Burrow as well as he does, I said as good as T. Higgins is, we saw this coming. We saw that Jamar Chase was eventually going to take over as number 1 because they know each other. So I love it, and I think it's been great for fantasy. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, huge value. Mixon after that, then T. Higgins and C.J. Uzomah. So that's where I have it. I got the Bengals winning this game as well. I'm not too worried about it. So definitely got to go Bengals in this one. Next one up, Mike, on Super Wildcard Weekend on Saturday, January 15th. We have a nighttime game at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Round 3 of the Patriots and the Bills. What are your thoughts? as these two teams split in the regular season, Buffalo winning the most recent. Buffalo won at New England. New England won at Buffalo. Now they're back to Buffalo. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great game. The team split this year, and it looked like, New England in the first game really controlled the rock. They really ran the ball well, and they kept the ball away from Josh Allen. And then as it turns out, a couple weeks later, on the flip side, the Bills did almost the same thing. They kept the ball away, but with Josh Allen's arm. So I think it's going to be it could be a who has the ball last type game, but I'm just going to go with the Bills. I'll tell you that right off. I got Josh Allen as the number 1 rated quarterback this weekend. I think he's the guy you're going to want. Of course, Mac Jones, not so much. Number 12 on the ranking there. Looking at the running back situation, I got Damien Harris at number 12 and Brandon Bolden and Ramondre Stevenson. Those guys are Ramondre Stevenson 16, Brandon Bolden 17. So there's some value there for you in a flex position, especially in a daily league. And then, looking at the Bills, Devin Singletary, it seems like they keep trying to get rid of this cat. We're going to get Zach Moss, and he's going to share time with Zach Moss, and Zach Moss is ineffective or injured. And then Matt Bryden, Matt Bryden is injured, and then Devin Singletary. So this guy just doesn't quit. So I give a lot, heads up to this guy right here. Hats off to him, Devin Singletary, number 8 on the ranking. Looking at the wide receiver position, this is where it gets a little dicey. Stephon Diggs, obviously the best wide receiver on the field, but for New England, you got to stretch and you got to go to a Jacoby Myers, who's at number 18 on the ranking. Looking at the tight end position, again, it's a real stretch here for me to play a Jonnu Smith at number 14 or 11. Dawson Knox is usually a red zone target and a touchdown magnet at number 8. And again, both of these teams are cold weather teams. It's supposed to be 4 degrees when this game is played. So, I'm sure it's going to be much worse than that. But with all things considered, both teams being cold weather teams, I'm going to go with the home team here in Buffalo.
Yeah, I got to go with the Bills as well in this matchup. Buffalo just couldn't get their offense going in that game. And like you said, trying to keep the ball away, they did a good job with Ramondre Stevenson and company to prevent the Bills from having much opportunity back in that matchup. And so, for me, I think that Buffalo is in a place right now where they have before the game was awful. We were out at Pizza Man Pub. We were doing a show with Al Romano, who won a championship with Tony Dorsett and the Pitt Panthers, and him and I were covering this game and just talking about it, and and then watching the beginning of it, and then seeing how it ultimately ended here was just a horrible ending for the Buffalo Bills, who just really couldn't seem to get out of it. Their second game around, 33-21, did what they needed to do. They looked more like the Bills that people are expecting. Josh Allen threw 47 passes with no interceptions, 3 touchdowns passing in the game. We got to see Josh Allen lead the way on the ground too, 5.3 yards per carry, 64 yards on 12 carries. Devin Singletary scored. Isaiah McKenzie, young wide receiver, scored. Stephon Diggs got into the end zone, and Dawson Knox, who's definitely shaped up to be of higher fantasy value this season, did some good things. But when we go back to that other game that they had against the Patriots, and we see that 14-10 loss, we take a look at how things looked here. Josh Allen attempted 17 less passes, 15-30, 50% from the field. Wasn't a good day. Snowing like crazy to start the game. Obviously cold. 1 touchdown, no interceptions, but the Bills and the Patriots should both know how to play in this. But Damien Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, between the two of them, had 189 yards rushing. Damien Harris with 11.1 yards a carry on 10 carries. Ramondre, 24 carries for 78 yards. So looking at this, the team ran the ball 46 times. Mac Jones only attempted 3 passes in that game. It was just ground and pound and play hard defense. It was that old Northeast punch-in-the-mouth football, and it worked. So, that's what worked before. Then they tried to do things a little bit differently, and Buffalo was able to take advantage. So Buffalo's really got to strike. They got to strike early. They got to strike often, and they have to understand that Bill Belichick can never be counted out of anything. So it's going to be a great game. I think it's great for the fans to see round 3, and I think it also makes the Buffalo Bills collectively, the fan base, the Bills Mafia, and the Bills backers probably take a collective gasp of air there as they know that, the Patriots have been a thorn in their side for such a long time. So looking at the Patriots first, Mac Jones has value in this game, obviously, but, we know that they won on the ground and pound, and we know that they can entrust with that. Mac has not been consistently great, but he's been occasionally good. You know what I mean? So he's had some good moments. He's obviously a quarterback that I thought was going to go to the Patriots. I predicted that he would go there at 15. I'm not surprised what Bill Belichick has gotten out of him. He's a rookie, and he looks good. He doesn't look like a rookie in some of these games. So Damien Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, though, they have a lot of value in this ground and pound, especially with it being so cold here in central and upstate New York. Jacoby Myers with some value. He's a limited participant, probably cheaper there for you. Hunter Henry definitely with the value. And then on Buffalo's side, it's Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and Dawson Knox. You could give something to... It's hard to determine who the next guy is going to be and what we're going to see behind Stephon Diggs. Who's the other guy that's going to get into the end zone? Is it Cole Beasley? Is it Gabriel Davis? Is it Isaiah McKenzie? Could be any one of those three. Those are cheaper grabs for you, but it's a toss-up. The value is with Stephon Diggs, Dawson Knox, and Josh Allen. And then some value to Devin Singletary, but definitely the Patriots hold more value in the rushing attack in this matchup. And for me, I'm going to give the win to the Bills as well. With that being said, we're going to take a step aside for a fast break here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. We are inside of the Cafe Kubal studios with locations all throughout Central. Proudly presented by the Wildcard Sports Pub on 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. Right after this fast break, they're open 7 days a week for indoor dining, and for takeout and delivery, you can call 315-487-2222. That's 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat Sports Pub. We'll be back here inside of the Cafe Kubal studios right after this with plenty more on a super wildcard weekend.
Tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carbolite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carbolite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315
487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. We are inside of the Cafe Kubal inside of this Fantasy Football Power Hour, like I said, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub. Mike and I brought you the Saturday games. And now we'll jump to Sunday, where we have a triple header on Sunday. Feels like Thanksgiving. However, this one's a lot more meaty because you win and you move on here in the hopes for the national championship, the title game here for the NFL. So, with that being said, we'll jump to Philadelphia at Tampa Bay, the 7 versus the 2. Mike, your thoughts as we start off Sunday, January 16th with Jalen Hurts and Tom Brady.
Yeah, my only concern in this game is twofold. The Bucks had an easy schedule compared to last year's winning percentages, but this year's winning percentages were the same, just about, for the same teams. The Bucks had trouble against winning teams. The only team with a winning record that the Bucks beat all year was the Buffalo Bills when they were 7-6 on December 12th. So, and it took them overtime to do that. That was a home game, of course. But so the Bucks have trouble with teams with winning records, and Philadelphia is 6-3 on the road this year. 6 of their 9 wins are on the road. So I'm not saying it. I'm just saying it. Tampa's an 8.5-point favorite in this one. Fantasy-wise, Tom Brady is the number 3 ranked quarterback this week, and well, on the other side, not so much. Jalen Hurts, number 5. But you got to understand, we're talking about the top 12 teams this weekend here when I'm ranking these quarterbacks. So, like, when I rank Joe Burrow 8, well, yeah, but in front of them are Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Matt Stafford. You got to have a good quarterback to make playoffs in this league. And Jalen Hurts is number 5. He gets it done with his legs and his arm. Looking at the running back situation, I like Leonard Fournette. I think Leonard Fournette is going to dominate. I think they're going to try to ground and pound in this game and keep the ball away from Jalen Hurts. Leonard Fournette, again, number 1 on the ranking. Miles Sanders, he should be fresh. He's hardly played all year, and when he has, he's stunk it up sometimes. But I think they're going to get to the ground and pound as well in Philadelphia. Miles Sanders, number 13 on the rankings. I think they're going to compliment him with Jordan Howard, who ranks number 19, and Boston Scott, 21 on the ranking this week. Looking at Mike Evans as the leader, that wide receiver is injured. I think it's going to bode well for some other guys out there like a Tyler Johnson, like a Brashard Perryman, but not enough for me to play those guys in fantasy. I'm only playing Mike Evans in the wide receiver position, but it is exciting to watch, you know, a Scotty Miller make a long run and dive for the pylon. That's always exciting stuff. But looking at the Philadelphia Eagles, Devonta Smith is the guy you're going to want. You know that going in. He's number 13 on the rankings. And then at the tight end position, Rob Gronkowski, you can't underestimate the time. Rob Gronkowski and Tom Brady could give each other a look, and that would be all it takes. And they know what they're going to do in a certain situation. Rob Gronkowski's dangerous. He's healthy. He's a red zone and a touchdown machine. And he can chew up the middle of the field, too. This is a very dangerous situation for Philadelphia. Rob Gronkowski, number 2 on the ranking there. And then Philadelphia's got Dallas Goedert. He's been a guy who they can always get the ball to and always depend on. He's number 5 on the rankings. I said before this is going to be a tough game. I said before there's a chance the Eagles are going to upset this game. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to take Tampa Bay, but I would be wary of laying 8.5 points.
Yeah, you know, I think this game might be close, might come down to the wire, but I see the Bucs pulling it out, and Tom Brady could make you a little bit nervous, could make Bills fans a little bit excited. Hopefully, if the Bills fans win, if they win, then they'll be watching this game and still hoping Tom Brady loses. If they lose, they're going to be really hoping that he doesn't make it after this. And to me, this game is going to be, I think, at times a lot closer than Brady wants, and a lot closer than fans of the Bucs may want. Philadelphia is no slouch, and in fantasy they have value with Jalen Hurts as well as with Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert brings some value there to them. Miles Sanders is questionable with a hand injury. If he's able to go, you could put him out there. If not, Boston Scott would be your best bet. On the other side for Tampa, it's Tom Brady, Mike Evans. Unfortunately, Chris Godwin is on injured reserve, which is sad to see for Chris Godwin, of course, especially in a game like this and the fact that we're in the playoffs. Tyler Johnson, and, we have Mr. Grayson there, not Dick Grayson from the DC comic books, but, we have Cy Grayson out there, and then Rashad Perriman, Scotty Miller. So really the values in Mike Evans and Rob Gronkowski when you take a look at it. Tom Brady, Mike, and Rob. And then with Ronald Jones, currently he's questionable for Wildcard weekend. And then we're looking to see and expect a return for Leonard Fournette. If Fournette is able to go, then I would put Fournette out there. And then obviously Mike Evans, Rob Gronkowski, and Tom Brady. I'm going to take the Bucs, but like I said, I think it's going to be a little closer than we're going to. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than what fans may want, at least at a certain point. Maybe not at the end, but I think this is going to test Brady, and I think there's value on both sides. Two different quarterbacks, two different styles. I like Jalen Hurts in fantasy. I like Tom Brady in fantasy, and I'm going to give the Bucs the win in this one. Next game that we have up after we see the Bucs start off our Sunday here with a triple header, we'll see San Fran and Dallas, which is an old 90s rematch of playoff time, and seeing two teams vying for the Super Bowl. What are your thoughts on the Niners, who got into the playoffs by beating the Rams? The San Francisco 49ers last season had a depleted roster. Hard to even know how they put 53 guys together with injuries and COVID. This year, they're in the playoffs. Jimmy Garoppolo has been out there. Trey Lance has been out there. And on the other side of it, Dak is back. What are your thoughts for San Fran at Dallas?
Yeah, and Garoppolo playing with that strained ligament that he has on that finger there. So this is not an easy game. This is going to be an exciting game. This is going to be a close game. San Fran, much like Philadelphia, 6-3 on the road. In Dallas, who's been hot when they need to be hot, and then they've been not when they needed to be hot. So it's a tricky game. It's a tricky situation. I'm not sure I'm fully invested with all the Dallas players fantasy-wise. I got Dak Prescott number 4 on the rankings this week. I got Jimmy Garoppolo number 10. I got on the running back situation here, I got, Zeke has been a challenge. For me, personally, he was a challenge. He cost me heavily in one league, but I'll digress here. This is Zeke Elliott, number 6 this week, hoping he can get it done. I think you're going to mix in a little more Tony Pollard than people think, though, at number 14. I think they play better when Tony Pollard is very active in the game plan. On the other side of the ball, Elijah Mitchell is healthy, and that's a dangerous situation for Dallas because Elijah Mitchell helps them move the ball. Going over to wide receiver, Deebo Samuel. This is another guy. He can play at running back. He's like he's the rich man's Cordero Patterson. This guy is ahead of steam. He's got the power to run with the ball. He's got the speed to get by you. This guy is extremely dangerous. He's number 2 only to Cooper Kupp this week. Number 2 on the rankings. Dallas, of course, has, some depth at receiver. You're looking at a guy like CeeDee Lamb, number 8 on the rankings, and Amari Cooper, number 12 on the rankings this week. Then over at tight end, George Kittle was a fantasy disappointment for some people, especially in the last game where he was called to stay in and assist on blocking on a lot of assignments simply because their left tackle was out. So this is a situation where we could see George Kittle bounce back fantasy-wise in the playoffs here. Number 3 on the rankings, and Dalton Schultz, again, touchdown-dependent guy, red zone guy, number 6 on the rankings this week. This is a game that I'm thinking I'm going to pick an upset here, but I just can't do it. I can't get past Dallas at home. I'm going to take Dallas.
Yeah, it's going to be it's crazy. It's crazy that I love the history of this. I love the history of this matchup. And obviously I know the teams are different. And I always think of Charles Haley because he played on both sides on the D-line for Dallas and for San Fran. Jerry Rice was talking about this game and his team. And you look at the history. You look at Steve Young and Jerry Rice and Dwight Clark, may he rest in peace. And, so many awesome players on San Fran's side of it. And then you look at the Troy Aikmans and the Larry Browns and the Russell Marylands and the Nate Newtons and Deion Sanders and Emmitt Smiths and Jay Novacek's and Moose Johnstons of the Dallas time. And it really just makes this game's history in the background so beautiful. I'd love to see kind of like a graphic where we see the players in the foreground and like a smaller view, and then in the background we kind of see this like Mount Rushmore of the players that were in this game before when the Niners were playing Cowboys historically, because it is such a great matchup and it brings some nostalgia to the playoffs. Hopefully we'll have an instant classic in this one as well. I'm picking the Cowboys, so and I've watched Cowboys almost my whole life. So for me, I'm hoping that they come through with it. Personally, I would like to see it. Professionally, as a broadcaster, impartially, I think Dallas is the better team. Now, I know that doesn't mean they're going to win, because Lord knows Dallas, when they need to win and they need to do something, they haven't gotten that done in recent years. Normally at the end of the season, when they control their own destiny and it's win one game of your last 3 to play, they don't do it. This year, it wasn't that. They had wrapped up their division before the last game of the season. They were already set and ready to go. I commend them for that. I congratulate them for that, and I appreciate the Cowboys for that they locked it up, locked it in, and had it set, unlike other years where they controlled their destiny and they did not. They played out of control, essentially. So in this game, Jimmy Garoppolo, like Mike said, he's injured. He's got a thumb injury right now. Trey Lance will probably get out there. Trey's got some value. We know that Trey can come in and he can run it in. Like, he can, play it like a Mariota. He can move around like a Jalen Hurts. We don't know what he's going to be as a dominant starter, and if he's going to be dominant in the future, we'll have to see. He had 1 year at North Dakota State that he played, and I think he had 50 touchdowns to a single-digit amount of interceptions, but he's never truly been the starter in San Fran as he's a rookie this year. They traded up from 12 to 3 to get him, though. Looks to be their future. Lance has some value in this game. Elijah Mitchell, he is questionable with a knee injury. JaMychal Hasty is out there, as well as Jeff Wilson Jr., and then we see Trey Sermon, who really hasn't turned out to be anything out of Ohio State. He's coming off of IR. Could be good for you from, an extra position there if you need another guy out there to flex out. So, Jeff Wilson, for me, has probably the most value next to Elijah Mitchell, but it's kind of a toss-up of who's going to get it. I think the more value lies with Deebo Samuel and George Kittle in this game, a little bit to Brandon Ayuk. On the other side of it for Dallas, it's Dak Prescott, Zeke Elliott, CeeDee Lamb, and Amari Cooper. I don't need to tell you that, but I will. Dalton Schultz as well. And if he's able to go, I love the sneaky play that used to be. Now it's not so sneaky as people got to be ready for it, but they use him in trick plays and all different things. Tony Pollard. Love him. Love that he comes from Memphis, a team that I followed for almost a decade now. Big fan of Tony Pollard. A lot of value in this game on Dallas' side. I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys to win the matchup. In the third game that we have here, Mr. Sofka, in our triple header on Super Wildcard Weekend on Sunday, is Pitt at Kansas City. I don't think you can count Pitt out. However, Kansas City, there's some graphics out there that says that they're throwing a retirement party for Ben Roethlisberger. Normally the team that talks trash is the one that ends up walking home by themselves. What are your thoughts on Pittsburgh at Kansas City?
Yeah, I got to wonder how much more Ben has in the tank, late in the season, calling this his last season, putting it all together, big heart game for them, Pittsburgh and Ben Roethlisberger, on Ben's last home game, or so they said, and it looked like Ben was at the end of the game, like relieved, like at a good place, like at peace with that being his last game. And then to top it off with the Ravens, win on the road in Baltimore, I just wonder how much more Ben has in the tank. Can that defense led by TJ Watt stop Kyler Murray? And the Chiefs have been suspect, especially early in the year. But the Chiefs don't lose at home. They're 7-2 at home. I just don't know if Ben has it in him, but he has some guys around him that might have it in him. Look, at this game here, I got Ben ranked pretty low, number 11, only ahead of Mac Jones and Marcus Mariota, so I'm not depending much there. But I got Patrick Mahomes at number 2 on the ranking this week. And then when you take a look at the running back situation, Najee Harris has been dominant all year. He's been a guy that can stay on the field the whole time. Najee Harris, number 2 on the rankings as Pittsburgh tries to shorten this game and give them a heavy dose. Now, if the Chiefs come out and just get up by a couple scores, that's probably it for the game and that game plan. But looking on the other side of the ball, Clyde Edwards-Helaire should be back fully healthy, and Darrell Williams is going to split the rock with him. I think those guys are ranked 10 and 11. Looking at the wide receiver position here, it's a little bit different. Has really picked up the pace here lately. He's number 15 on the rankings, but Deontay Johnson's been the man all year, number 3 on the rankings here. And in KC, of course, you got to talk about Tyreek Hill, fastest guy in the NFL. This guy just seems to get it done out of nowhere. And then you take a look at the tight end situation, the best tight end in football right now, Travis Kelsey, number 1 on the rankings here. And Pat Freiermuth has really turned it on in his rookie season here, number 9 on the rankings. With all that being said, I don't see that Kansas City is going to lose this game. I'm going to take the Chiefs.
I think it's going to be a great game to wrap up the weekend, but won't wrap up the wild card altogether, as there's going to be a game on Monday night. And a shout out to one of our longtime viewers and listeners, Greg here, who made the note here that we typically don't see wild card playoff games on Monday night. Last one was in 1988, and the 7th playoff game on Monday overall. So interesting statistics there. Also interesting that no quarterback that's led the league in passing yards has ever made it to a Super Bowl, and Tom Brady being that guy. So we'll see. This year he's that guy. So we'll see if he can over 5,000 yards once again in his career. So going into the Pitt Chiefs game, Ben Roethlisberger, I wouldn't put the fantasy value on his side. I'd put it with Najee Harris and Pat. I'm a huge fan of Pat Freiermuth. I think Pat Freiermuth is going to come up big in this game. I think he's going to have at least 1 touchdown in this matchup. Deontay Johnson also has some value as well on the other side of it for Kansas City. And if you get to go after individual defensive players, T.J. Watt, obviously, I shouldn't have to tell you that, but T.J. Watt. So he, to me, is the MVP of the Steelers the entire season. On Kansas City's side, Pat Mahomes as well as Travis Kelsey. Tyreek Hill has some value, too, as long as his heel is able to be healed. Look at that. By the time that the game comes on, so take a look for Tyreek Hill. Not that he plays on his heels at all. He's always on his tippy toes as he's running on the field. If he's even touching the ground, seems like he runs on air sometimes. So Tyreek Hill, take a look at that. Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Darrell Williams, both of them are on the injury report. Clyde with a shoulder injury, Darrell with a toe injury. They're both questionable, so just watch that and what Derek Gore could maybe be if they need the help. I put more value in the running back room to Najee Harris in this game, and then on the receiving side, Tyreek Hill if he's healthy, then Deontay Johnson. And Freiermuth and Kelsey, I like them both. I think Freiermuth, like I said, is going to make an impact in this game. I am going to go with the Steelers in this matchup. So I'm actually going to pick the Steelers to upset and keep Big Ben going in this. So Mike's going with the Chiefs, and I am going with the Steelers in this game. And I'm going to pick them as the first time that Mike and I have gone against each other here in Super Wildcard Weekend for this season. Every other game we've picked the same. We picked the Bengals over the Raiders, the Bills over the Patriots, as well as the Bucks over the Eagles and the Cowboys over the Niners, all home teams. I picked the road team in Steelers at Chiefs. Mike picked the home team. Find out who we're picking in the final game for Monday night, Arizona at L.A., when they get to play round 3 of their matchup this season. So not only the Bills and Patriots doing it, we're also going to see it be done by the Cardinals and the Rams, and we'll talk about it right after this fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets life.
In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com. It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success at Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York.
And welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt from inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. We are here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, Facebook, and mixlr.com, all /wakeupcalldt. mixlr.com /wakeupcalldt. youtube.com /wakeupcalldt, and on facebook.com /wakeupcalldt, being shared on facebook.com /livenowdt, and of course being heard as well on wakeupcalldt.com, where the live feed is embedded. After you hear the shows live, you can search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on Stitcher, Spotify, MixLR, TuneIn, Podbean, iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube as well. All you got to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. In the final piece, of this edition of the Fantasy Football Power Hour. Not one of, not a, but the Fantasy Football Power Hour. Getting a bye, Green Bay advancing in the NFC, and Tennessee advancing in the AFC. Everybody else having to play 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5, and our 4-5 matchup in the NFC will round out Super Wildcard weekend on Monday night. Mr. Sofka, we will see the Rams hosting the Cardinals. The Cardinals are where they are because they lost. If they had won and the Rams losing, this would have flipped and Arizona would have been at home. So this game definitely has some background here that Arizona could have been the home team and this could have been played in Phoenix. Instead, it's going to be played in Los Angeles with the Rams hosting round 3 between the two NFC West rivals. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's going to be a good game, and I really want to pick the Cardinals to win this one. They're 8-1 on the road, but the Rams seem like they're built for the playoffs. The organization has gone all in. All the chips are in the middle of the table. They've given up draft stock. They've given up everything they can for now. They're trying to catch lightning in a bottle now with Matt Stafford. And speaking of that, Matt Stafford's number 7 on the ranking this week. One guy just ahead of him at number 6 is the guy on the other side of the field, Kyler Murray, at number 6 this week. And then you take a look at the running back situation. Well, you know, for the Cardinals, it's James Conner, I think, is going to be the guy. Chase Edmonds is probably not so much, probably not going to make the game here. But I got him at number 15. So I think there's a good combination. I think maybe they ride the hot hand should both of them be, you know, fully healthy. Sony Michelle is going to be the lead guy, number 9 on the rankings here. Cam Akers, they're bringing him into it slowly here, number 20 on the rankings. Heaven forbid if Cam Akers heats up, this thing is all but over. But looking at the wide receiver position, Arizona desperately missing DeAndre Hopkins, but Christian Kirk checks in at number 11 on the rankings this week. A.J. Green at 154 years old, still getting it done, number 19 on the rankings. But on the other side of the field, they got the top guy in the NFL, the record breaker. He's leading in just about every category. Cooper Kupp, number 1 on the rankings here. And that opens things up for other guys like a Van Jefferson. I got Van Jefferson at 21 on the rankings here. Looking a little further at the tight end position, Zach Ertz, that was a vital catch by them. They traded for him, and that was what they needed to push them to the next level in Arizona. Number 7 on the rankings is Tyler Higby. He looked like a thug on the football field last week. Number 10 on the tight end rankings. I really want to take Carolina in this. I really do. I really think they're capable of winning this game, but I'm going to take the Rams at home.
Yeah, you know, this is going to be a good game for both. The Cardinals started out with Chandler Jones having, I believe, 5 sacks in the opening game of the season, a Super Bowl champion and a Syracuse alum, and an upstate New York recruit, thank you, from the beautiful Binghamton area. So something that needs to be said there, Union Endicott. And so you talk about there's no talent in New York. Well, okay, well, he went on to Syracuse, did awesome things, and then went on to the NFL and is still relevant. And he can play on the D-line or as an outside linebacker. Love what Chandler Jones is doing. Big fan of him. And Justin Pugh, first-round pick out of Syracuse as well. And we had dinner right before he got drafted in the first round, so it was really cool to see Justin doing what he's doing. So shout out to them both. I would say Kyler Murray, obviously. James Conner, if he's able to go. He is questionable with a rib injury, but I know he ain't back down to cancer. He doesn't back down to any injuries. I'm sure he'll be out there in some respect, and I look forward to seeing him, and God bless everybody getting healthy and being well in general on and off the field. James Conner, Kyler Murray, Zach Ertz, the value for me. Besides that, A.J. Green and Christian Kirk, there is some value here with these guys, but it's tough to decide who's going to really get it. DeAndre's obviously been hurt for a while. If I had to put it on anybody, I'd say A.J. Green, but Christian Kirk could be sneaky. It behooves you to lean on Green if you're going to lean on anybody, but to lean more on James Conner and Kyler Murray and a little bit on Zach Ertz. On the Rams side of things, Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higby, I like them all. Van Jefferson, probably cheap there in daily for you. He's a good one to have out there. And Odell Beckham Jr. is too much of an up-and-down player, really wherever he, going to Cleveland, he's done it. Going to the Rams, he was shut down recently here. So Sony Michelle, Cam Akers is back, and so we saw him get under 10 touches in this game. So Sony Michelle has some value for you. Really, Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford, and Tyler Higby. I put it more on the running of the Cardinals, and then both quarterbacks different but still strong in this. And then receiving-wise, obviously, I put it to the Rams with Cooper Kupp. And then when you look at receiving from the tight end point of view, Higby and Ertz kind of similar to me as far as what I think maybe the points would be. If I had to choose, I'd go a little bit more on the side of Ertz in this game. This is tough. This is really tough for me, but I think the Rams are poised to make a Super Bowl run, so I got to go with the Rams in this matchup. So with that being said, Mike and I have agreed on every game in Super Wildcard Weekend to start off the 2021-2022 NFL playoffs, except for the game where I picked the Steelers and he picked the Chiefs. Find Mike at HallOfFameFantasyFootball.com. Find us both at the Winning Fantasy Football group on Facebook. You have to ask to join, so make sure you do that today. And, of course, you can always find us every Wednesday in hour number 2 for the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. They are there 7 days a week for you for indoor dining and, of course, for takeout and delivery, 315-487-2222. So if you're staying home to watch the games, 315-487-2222. Amazing Philly cheesesteaks, awesome pizza, awesome Wildcat sauce on their wings, chicken Caesar wraps, so many great things to have, and their fried dough is second to none in Central and Upstate New York, and I mean that, and I know my history on fried dough. So head out to the Wildcat today, enjoy the games, and enjoy it at home with takeout and delivery from the Wildcat if you're going to be watching it in your familiar digs. With that being said, Mr. Sofka, thank you so much as always, and I cannot wait to talk with you about a weekend where I will be sitting with my Ma and Pa's kettle corn ready watching these games on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Sounds great, Dan. I look forward to speaking with you next time. Thanks a lot.
All right, take care. With that being said here, folks, I want to thank you all for being a part of the broadcast. Once again, to recap, Mike and I went with the Bengals at home over the Raiders, the Bills at home over the Patriots, the Bucks at home over the Eagles, the Cowboys at home over the Niners. Mike went Chiefs at home, I went Steelers on the road, and then we both went Rams over the Cardinals at home. So that's what it looks like from our Super Wildcard Weekend predictions. You can go back and watch this video on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and on facebook.com/wakeupcalldt as well. I thank you so much for being a part of the broadcast, and I want to implore you to always be with us every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and you can find us on Facebook, MixLR, and YouTube by going to any one of those .com/wakeupcalldt, youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, wakeupcalldt.com, and facebook.com/livenowdt. Once the shows go live, you can check them out in the archives of YouTube as well as iHeartRadio and on iTunes and Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, and MixLR. All you have to do to find our archive of Wake Up Call for free on any one of these avenues is to search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. And of course, you can thank our Central and Upstate New York partners by going out to any one of them today. Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Progressive Dental, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. You can order from any one of the 50 states at maandpaspopcorn.com. Avicoli's, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Cicero, and Chick-fil-A Clay, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Pizza Man, Lemoyne Dolphins, the Millhouse Market, Honda City of Liverpool, Mother's Cupboard, Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, and the most awesome place that you have to go to because you love their food truck, and now you got to go to their Street Side Cafe. When you're jonesing for the food truck, now you can get the full menu at PB&J's Lunch Box. Proudly serving Cafe Kubal on site as well on 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is also the proud multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It is Fins Up all day, every day, and every single week on Wednesday, Dolphin Time goes live like today, where you can get stories from your Lemoyne Dolphins, and that is every first and third Wednesday, AD and DT episodes airing with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora, and every second and fourth Wednesday, including today, we have Dolphin Dive with coaches, student athletes, and staff members of Lemoyne telling you their stories on their journeys. It is always Fins Up, like I said, with the Lemoyne Dolphins, proud multimedia marketing partner here with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You can check out the Lemoyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, and get all of your Lemoyne shows there as well. And, of course, you can find out more information on Lemoyne by going to LemoyneDolphins.com. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is the proud multimedia marketing partner as well of your Marywood University Pacers. Marywood University, it is Pacer Pride every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And rounding out each week on Fridays, you get to hear from the Pacers with Executive Director of Athletics, Pat Murphy, student athletes and coaches joining us throughout the year on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You can find our Pacer Pride exclusive episodes on the Marywood tab on wakeupcalldt.com. You can also find us at youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. And, of course, you can get more information, including an entire schedule of events for Marywood at marywoodpacers.com. Very happy upcoming Super Wildcard weekend. We have 2 more great days of shows at, and we have a fantastic live show coming on at Avicoli's tonight with Liverpool girls basketball. Can't wait to see you. Can't wait to talk with you. Please stay safe. Stay well. Prayers, please, for my dad as he goes through surgery as we're talking right now. So God bless to my dad. Greg, I'm happy you came out of surgery okay, and I hope everything is healthy, safe, and happy and continues to be. Same goes for my dad. God bless you, Dad. I love you so much. And so to God, I pray for my pop that everything will go well and be well and stay well, and that my dad will heal completely and for good, and no matter what, through you, God, and handle well whatever comes his way. To health, safety, happiness, and all good things for my dad and for everyone. I wish you a fantastic day. Find us on Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, Twitter at CallDT, Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT, and of course, God bless, no stress, do your best. We'll talk soon.